This is Greg Troutwine with Maritime Reporter TV, and we're very pleased to be joined today by Matt Wood, the National Sales Manager of Furuno USA, to discuss this storied company's digital transformation in the face of increased levels of autonomy and remote electronics management. So Matt, we talk digitalization and digital transformation daily, but to start us off, can you put in perspective Furuno's own digital path? What is the reality on the street, meaning what do you see happening in the commercial maritime market? What are your customers asking for, and how is Furuno positioning itself to capitalize?
Yes, no, we appreciate the invitation and the opportunity to chat with you a little bit. And it's always interesting to define terms a little bit, right? Because digitization and autonomy mean different things to different people. And what phase are we talking about, or what stage are we talking about? So for us, digitization, most simplistically, initially has meant a transition from analog technology to digital technology. And while that's a little bit simplistic, I don't want to, it's really important for us to underscore how vital that digitization has been for really growing our technology in leaps and bounds. We had a really good analog radar before. We have an even better digital radar now. We're really known as a radar and navigation company. So the advancements in digital signal processing and adaptation of other digital technologies, bringing digital technologies that aren't conventionally maritime into the maritime environment has been huge for us. So whether that's advancements in radar technology, or particularly for us, satellite compasses and Doppler speed, satellite speed logs, things of that nature, we've already seen that advancement in terms of adding to our quiver for the equipment that we build. Further digitization is the digitization of communication. So whether we're talking about simple internet or Ethernet, which has been around obviously a long time, we look at the industry's adoption of protocols like NEMA 2000 and coming soon OneNet. The international, we talk about alphabet soup in our industry all the time, right? We've got the IEC, the International Electrotechnical Commission, has standards for both Ethernet compatibility as well as cyber secure Ethernet compatibility. Cyber obviously is a huge issue, kind of a subset of digitization. And then a lot of people understand digitization to be, cloud technology, storage in the cloud, communication through the cloud, or communication through satellite communications. And so this is where, in our take on digitization, a couple of things have happened where we're enabling a much higher and much deeper level of connectivity between the shore side of operations and what's going on the vessel. That can be something, if we understand it as simplistically, as something like TeamViewer or remote monitoring. And then one of our subsidiaries, our subsidiary in Greece, Furuno Hellas, have come out with a product that they call Hermes, which is very full-scale remote monitoring that has most recently resulted in digital twin. So Lloyd's has a certification of digital twin, and I won't say that we're the first, but we're one of the first marine electronics and navigation companies to achieve that digital twin certification. So that again, digitization is a lot of things to unpack, but that's kind of where we've been. And then, of course, we're building that digital path really into everything that we do.
Matt, as you discuss, digitalization and autonomy go hand in hand. And I know that there are differing levels of autonomy I know that there are different levels of automation leading to full autonomy,
Right.
But is increased levels of automation and autonomy really a part of your daily discussions with customers? And if so, can you discuss how they are specifically looking to deploy this automation across their vessels and their fleets?
It's a great question. It's a really broad topic. Again, how you understand digitization and how we understand, autonomy or automation. And we are definitely seeing a call for both for automation, as you say, leading to autonomy really across the board, depending upon how you unpack autonomy, 1 to 5 levels of autonomy. And then automation goes somewhat hand in hand with that. So as an example, and I know we're, for Maritime Reporter, we're dealing principally in the commercial space, but even in the recreational space with something like digital switching, that is a level of automation that can be brought into, a 30 or 40 something foot center console, or even a smaller recreational boat. And then we're seeing those systems really on steroids in the vessel space. So, and then really the demands are they're very diverse. They're quite varied across a lot of different markets. Military guys are looking at it through one aspect. Government services and government vessels are looking at it from another aspect. Firefighters, chemical response units, search and rescue guys. There are little different pieces of the puzzle there for everybody. And so we're working, again, principally as a navigation company. We're still working on a way, or have worked and continue to work on a way to really refine both not only what our sensors do, but how they communicate with other pieces of, we'll just say AI, right? It's an autonomy engine or an automation engine, as well as the AI kinds of companies or AI kinds of devices that many different companies are working on now. So when we look at automation, it could be, again, there's still, I think everybody gets a little bit freaked out by thinking about a completely autonomous vessel. And I'm, I'll say, experienced enough in age in the industry, 30 years later, that I worry a little bit about it being too hands off from the mariner. But unquestionably, the combination of sensor inputs and the combination of machinery on pretty much any size vessel lends itself to some form of automation. So if we look at a vessel that might be, if we take a super simplistic example, where we look at a patrol vessel where at certain times of day, certain lights may be automated to come on, to turn off, to steer a searchlight, things of that nature, all the way out to a significantly autonomous vessel like a firefighting or a chemical response vessel that is completely unmanned, may be piloted remotely. There are a couple of companies that we work with that do remote pilotage as well as automatic systems. But here, the blessing in that that first responder space is that we've got a vessel that isn't exposing a crew to harm, right? Whether it's fire, whether it's CBRNE or something like that. And then military applications as well, whether it's for surveillance, reconnaissance. We have done we and our partners in New Zealand, as well as our home company in Japan, have done a significant amount of work about exploring inner harbors for unseen dangers, whether it's just rocks, if I'm going into an unmarked anchorage, or a mined harbor, right, in the battlefield space. If we're looking at a mined harbor and we want to send an asset in there, and that might get blown up, but we don't want guys to get blown up. So, I'll apologize in advance if for any future long answers, but again, it's a really meaty topic, and basically, what does the customer want to do? And by and large, we have a solution for them.
Again, switching gears a little bit here, can you give a by the numbers look at Furuno today, using the metrics of your choice, to give a breadth and a depth to the R&D and the technology development that you have behind your products and systems?
Yeah, you bet. So the very basic nuts and bolts of Furuno. So our parent company is Furuno Electric Company. We're founded in 1938. There are a lot of eights in the history of Furuno. Certain things happen in 38 and 78 and 88. So we are still, one of the big takeaways about Furuno is that we are still principally a family owned and family oriented company. It was the company was founded by two brothers that were radio engineer specialists, and then they parlayed the radio engineering into underwater depth sounding and fish finding, and the rest, as they say, is history. So to date, we are just under 3,000 employees. We have the home company in southern Japan, western Japan, depending upon how you look at it. The home company is headquartered right in between Kobe and Osaka in Japan. Have a number of different facilities in Japan. We have the headquarter office, two R&D facilities, an R&D dormitory. The principal production plant is a couple hours outside of town there. Couple of major facilities in China as well, and then around the world, we have consolidated our distribution. Especially, I've been with the company a little over 20 years, and in those 20 years, we've consolidated a lot of our previously private distribution into wholly owned subsidiary companies. So right now, we're sitting at about the parent plus 40 subsidiary companies, which include, like I said, a couple of different R&D wings, as well as a previously private testing laboratory, where we can test our own, but we can test outside technology to international standards. Again, those alphabet soup performance standard kind of agencies. 2020 sales, so the last year of corporate sales, about $770 million in sales. It was better than that in 2021. We haven't seen the final report there. And another big takeaway, when people look at Furuno, we're pretty well acknowledged, as a brand in the maritime space. And we're always proud of saying that marine is really what we do. About something like 85 to 90% of our total revenues are from the maritime space. That has diversified quite a lot, again, in the last, I'll say, even just 5 or 10 years, but certainly the 20 years I've been with the company, as we have grown more in what we call deep sea commercial markets, ocean going traffic. But another big portion of where we're going is the, again, combination fusion of sensor technologies and other processing technologies that we'll probably talk about a little bit later in the interview. So that our R&D engine, and the majority of employees in the company are engineers. Those are the guys that they're either doing really deep level technological research, then they're bringing that in. It's like, should we do something with this widget? Should we do something with this technology? If we do, how do we build it in? How can we take, I won't say parts bin technology, right? But we have a long history of building on the successes of the past and making kind of incremental changes that over a generation or two lead up to a revolution. So that's really where we're at. We have, and it's impossible to say this and not sound a little bit arrogant, but the fact is that we have the largest product line of really any of our contemporary manufacturers. We do everything, right? When we sit in our forecast meeting, we are forecasting well over 400 finished goods. It's a long meeting, and and then when we parlay any of those technologies from one seeming market or bucket into another. So, as an example, we sell a lot of small MFDs into the military and government market. We sell a lot of what nominally seems to be a commercial radar into the mega yacht market, or even the high-end sport fish market. So it's always a little bit difficult to talk about our market share or our market breakdown, but suffice it to say that we're in pretty much every market out there.
Can you discuss the products or systems that have recently been introduced or are in the works that you think best exemplify the present and the future of Furuno's tech path?
Yeah, you bet. And I've had the pleasure of attending, one of the big industry events that for many years is Schiffemaschine, the SMM show in Hamburg, Germany, which has been delayed, unfortunately, because of COVID. But started going to that. It's every other year, and so I've been in 14, 16, 18, and I will go back by hook or by crook. So we use that show, not just that show, but we really use that show as one of our kind of proving grounds of showing one of our emerging technologies. And then usually it's by the next show or even a show 4 years later that we're bringing that initial concept to market. So and there's one particular sort of example that I'll give you, but just to kind of springboard off the discussion about the digitization of technology, one of our biggest accomplishments here in the last several years has been we believe 99% certain that we are the first company to have a matched pair of IMO type approved navigation radars in solid state X band and S band. And which is pretty special. There are other manufacturers that have one or the other, but we can actually do a matched pair, and we can do that. Again, we build all of our technology to be very, very scalable. So we've had very good luck in offering extraordinarily high power solid state radars And I believe really that we've overcome any of the previous hesitation that folks would have about, well, it's like I don't want to let go of my conventional magnetron radar. We are seeing almost no circumstances in which a solid state radar is ever going to underperform a magnetron radar. And then and even in those cases, where they do suffer a little bit by comparison, it's super rare. And then there's the huge benefit of not only the performance you get from a solid state radar or solid state technology, but the cost of ownership is just extraordinarily low, because again, we don't have a multi-$1,000 magnetron that we have to replace approximately annually. So, it's not entirely a set it and forget it product line, but we've tried to make it that way as best we can. Couple of other technologies that we've worked on, our satellite compass technology has emerged hugely, both in the commercial space and in the, I'll say, general recreational space, but it's not just recreational anymore. Again, we've continued to leverage the newer technology like a NEMA 2000, and then we have the same device that's talking NMEA 0183. So we are, we're supporting the old and the new. And then when we look at, adaptations of technology, one of the, again, going back to that show in Germany in 2014, I guess it was 14, we introduced, 2016, we showed for the first time our concept of a wave measuring radar. So measuring wave height, wave peak, wave periodicity, and things of that nature. And that's a finished product now. So our WV100 wave radar is one example of leveraging our know-how and our experience coming from the past, combining it with really rapid, again, digital signal processing techniques, and then also borrowing other technologies in partnership with, we've worked with Tokyo University, we've worked with Delft University in the Netherlands, because we're fond of saying, embrace your limitations, right? We know that we can't do it all ourselves. So we've reached out to some pretty innovative industry partners to help us along the path. So those are big ones. And then a product that is just starting to emerge right now, when we talk about AI, we have our AR100, which is an augmented reality device. That's, in all honesty, a little bit difficult for us to figure out. It's one of these very early slice products. It's nothing that is mandated by the market. It's nothing that is a regulatory requirement, which is where we see a lot of purchasing happens. Like, you got to have a gyro compass on board. You got to have a radar on board. You don't got to have augmented reality. But we are merging. We're merging camera technology, ECDIS technology, radar technology, GPS, heading, satellite compass, Doppler speed log, satellite Doppler speed log. We're merging all of those technologies into effectively a heads-up display. Right now, it's in a conventional display in the front of the bridge, but there's really no reason that can't be. It could be put into a headset. It could be put into an overhead. It could be put into a projection. Those are sort of, super fantastic, Star Wars, Battleship Galactica. I mean, think of something more modern than Star Wars anyway, right? It's not anything that's necessarily being asked for, but there are guys that want to embrace it. And we've intentionally started small. It's not particularly expensive technology. We're looking ballpark 25,000 to add to an existing Furuno bridge. But we envision that kind of technology is going to continue to take off. Again, it's from our standpoint, it's an answer to a question that hasn't been asked a lot, but the more questions start getting asked, like, can it do this? Can it do that? We scratch our heads and go, well, the signal's there, right? The data's there. There's no reason that we couldn't provide it. So I'm always fond, as a sales guy, I'm always fond of saying that our customers take us places that we wouldn't go by ourselves. And that's definitely happening in this space.
Looking at the markets that you serve, where do you see opportunity today?
So as I touched on, just as one example with Carnival Cruise Line and some of our existing customers, as well as new customers that are looking at new stuff, we I can't give you an exact percentage, but we have a very substantial footprint in the new building market, particularly in Asia, a little bit less in Europe, but still pretty decent in Europe. So where the opportunity is coming about now is that if, since workers are sick and shipyards aren't fully staffed, right? There's staffing issues across the board, no matter what walk of life or whatever business you're in, don't have as many opportunities for the new builds, which means that the retrofit market is quite robust. And so I mentioned earlier that Holland America Line, as one example, have a couple of vessels in queue this year, and they're being pretty aggressive about getting their vessels retrofit because because it's timely for them. There is it seems like every year, or at least every decade, there is kind of a new generation of vessels. We are seeing, by virtue of we're in a global economy, so we're in global communication, we're seeing a lot of technology transfer and know-how transfer from European and particularly Scandinavian vessel design companies, whether it's particularly for commercial fishing, but also in oil and gas, also in autonomy, feeder vessels, really, and workboats across the board. And those vessels are technologically, more to significantly more complex than some of the conventional designs that have come out of U.S. yards, right? So whether it's Fiskerstrand and Eldøy, or Skip Tekniks coming out of Norway, or we've got a great relationship with the guys at Gloston in Seattle, and De Jong and LeBay. Ed Vaughn down there is a buddy of mine for a long, long time. We are seeing, I'm fond of saying that we really pride ourselves in providing very sophisticated, complex answers and solutions to really complex problems. So we're seeing, just a much greater calling toward a higher order of vessel class, whether it's a DNV class, whether it's an ABS class, and more, more stuff going into the bag. So those are kind of the conventional markets. And then, of course, there are emerging markets as well. We talked plenty about autonomy. So, pitching different levels of technology to different levels and different demands for autonomy and automation is keeping us on our toes. And emerging energy markets, obviously right in your backyard, wind farms are a thing now. And that for the next probably 30 or 40 years, if not more, we're going to see just a huge amount of on the water infrastructure invested in wind farm development, wave energy development as well. We have been actually for the last 5 or 6 years part of a seedling project on the Oregon coast with the Oregon Military Department and several other stakeholders, looking at generating energy from wind, both for direct to grid, but also for emergency storage and emergency consumption. And everybody knows, whether it's Bob Ballard or anybody else, that there's more of the top of the world that has been explored, and even more of outer space that's been explored than undersea. So one of our technologies from our partners in New Zealand, the WASP technology, our multi-beam echo sounder and multi-beam sonar technology, is opening the underwater world. So we're seeing more and more demand for that, both to be more precise, to do it on smaller vessels, to do it more easily deployed or immediately deployed, as well as going deeper. So those, those are markets, those kind of emerging markets. They're not necessarily all new, but again, we're trying to leverage technology and advance those markets even more. And then I touched on a little bit earlier as well, kind of where our markets are going to is adaptations of our core technology. One of those examples is we have leveraged our marine radar into a weather radar. So we have a dual polarimetric, both either 2D or 3D radar for weather. So we have several dozen installations worldwide. We Furuno USA. So Furuno USA is responsible for sales throughout the Americas. So we've got North, Central, and South America as part of our portfolio. So we've done weather radars in South America. We're doing weather radars for FPSO and oil and gas exploration, things like both long-range weather monitoring as well as helicopter approach in the Caribbean. And then another core technology that we're really expanding on is inertial navigation units, and that again, that's bringing technology from all around the globe into our box to be able to to do very high precision pitch, roll, and heave for stabilizing whether we're stabilizing a recreational fish finder, a commercial fish finder, or a multi-beam sonar. Again, just trying to build that scalability of technology so that we can go from, we hate to say, go from outhouse to penthouse, but go from smallest to biggest across the entire breadth of the customer need.
Okay. Well, Matt, I truly do appreciate your time, and I look forward to catching up with you again in the future.
Yeah, you bet, Greg. Thanks so much for the opportunity to be with you today.